It is no longer news that Akwa Ibom State is rated as the state with the highest prevalence of HIV and AIDS. That report came to us and it's been unsettling ever since we heard that. So lots of persons have actually engaged gears to ensure that we educate our people on the ways we can prevent, we can manage HIV and AIDS, and ensure that we get the state's name off such records. PassionTvng is not going to keep quiet as far as that is concerned. That is why we've taken a walk into the medical center of University of Udoh, and we are on set to engage the chief nursing officer in charge of HIV units in the medical center in the person of Mrs.NsikanAbasi in Udoh. She joins the program today, and you can expect we'll be talking about everything. If I know her too well, then I can be able to tell you that this is going to be a no-holds-barred conversation. So everything you need to know about the disease or the condition, or everything you know about how to prevent it, how to manage it, how to get us on the right track towards ensuring that our name, our state is out of such ill record will be discussed on this list. Thank you so very much for joining us, and if you have not subscribed to our channel, I think you should hit that button right there now. My name is Mrs.Nsikan. You're welcome on the program. Okay, thank you very much for your time, madam. Now, being the chief nursing officer in charge of HIV testing services unit of the Medical Center University of Udoh, share with us what the experience has been like testing the people that come. How often do you get to meet with people that actually have HIV and AIDS?
Thank you very much. Making reference to the reports we have recently that Akwa ranks #1, I wouldn't say they are wrong entirely, because in the sick population, we know, the people that come to health center or the hospitals are those that are actually sick. So we call them sick population. Okay. You get to see these people. If you test up to like 15 patients in a day, it's not unlikely to see patients 2 or 3 being positive, because this is already a sick population. Okay. So the report may not be entirely wrong. It's been okay. We've been trying, and there are very many things. They have packages taking care of these patients. So as we go on, we'll get to see those packages.
Out of every 10 of this sick population, how many oftentimes go down with the virus?
The sick population, most times we have 2 or 3 out of 15. And maybe 1 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not alarming.
I would say it is. That's 10%.
Wow.
The sick population.
Okay.
You understand? You bring out 10 people and 1 person is positive. You say it's 10%.
And when you say it like that, it's actually very alarming.
It is. That's for the sick population.
Okay.
But if you get to a community and do a massive kind of testing, you discover that in a community you might have just 2 people in the entire community. Okay. So if we are considering the sick population, of course we have a lot of them.
Okay. Thank you very much. You've really explained. So now I have an idea. There is a population that's not sick, and there is also the sick population. Yeah. So it's prevalent in the sick population much more than
because a typical African man will go to the hospital when he or she is sick. Yeah, when he or she is sick.
Oh well, I'm trying to remember the last time I went to the hospital.
Yeah, you're lucky. It is good to always go, because it's not only when you're sick that you have to go to. It's just the mentality we have around here.
What is it supposed to be like?
Normally, you say you stay for like 2-3 months. You need to check. You just go for a checkup. Just see how your system is. Ask the doctor to look at you, examine you, because there are some illnesses that may not be obvious until they actually get to a later stage. So if you get there and you're being tested, you're being examined, you could just notice an illness that you may not have known is there in you, and then the management will be very prompt. That means it will curtail the extent at it would have disturbed you. But if you stay until you are ill, you never can tell if you recover from that illness. So it's always good to go once in a while, but just go do a checkup.
Thank you very much. So now, how bad is HIV/AIDS? Why is it dreadful? Or is it even dreadful? Why do people fear HIV so much? It's not like malaria. I'm proud if I had malaria, I'm proud to say I'm having malaria. But if someone has HIV, it's totally different.
Yeah, it's true. It is because of the stigmatization that goes with the illness. It's not that HIV is bad like people think. Yeah, it is something that, once somebody tells you you're positive, you start feeling uneasy because you know that at the end of the day, initially we used to have this diagram of a skull of a human being with bones crossed, showing you that once you're pronounced HIV positive, that means you're bound to die. That was the initial, the belief people had. Okay. And that was partly because we did not have enough, care, drugs to sustain these people. But now it's not like that. I would really say that HIV is better than some of those illnesses we have these days. For instance, I keep telling my clients, I say, yes, it's true, HIV it comes with stigmatization. But if you look at it, if you have HIV, you can really manage yourself much more than somebody that has diabetes. You ask me why.
Please.
If somebody comes there and is tested positive, especially if it is at the asymptomatic level, that's the first stage, you don't have any symptom, you feel well, and we know that you're positive. At that point in time, we start you on treatment, because what we do right now in the management of HIV is test and treat. Once we know you're positive, we start the drugs immediately. That's to prevent your immune system from going down and to curb the appearances of those opportunistic infections. So with that person can live as many years as God cares for the person. Now, if somebody is positive and we start the drugs, the person can go about his normal business. The person eats everything. You're not restricted on any diet. But if you have a case of diabetes, you know that person has to select the food he eats. And there are these ones that are insulin dependent, which means that every blessed day, an individual has to take insulin in order to live. And if he or she mistakenly or forgets taking that treatment for that day, you see the person ending up in coma the next day. Wow. The HIV person may forget taking his drug, but he can still get on. The next day he will take his drug and move on. And so you see, HIV person might have injury and is able to treat it, he gets up. But if a diabetic has wound, it is difficult to manage. So these are things that people get to understand these days, that HIV is not as bad as we think. It is just because another thing that makes them afraid is because initially we were saying HIV is from sexual intercourse. If you have an intercourse and an infected partner, you become infected. And so if you tell somebody you have HIV, the first thing in the person's mind is, oh, so they will know I have been having sex, unprotected sex. Not just unprotected, I've been having sex. Oh, my parents will kill me. Oh, my people will kill me. They will think I am so promiscuous. And because of that, person hides, So hiding, the person prevents the person from accessing care in time. And the person will not take active measures in preventing it from getting to another person. So that's why it's a bit difficult managing it these days, because we still have a lot of work to do as far as public enlightenment program is concerned.
Let's hear from your words what HIV is and what HIV is not.
Okay. HIV, by definition, is a human immunodeficiency virus. That means this is the virus that causes AIDS. Okay? So once the virus enters your body, it destroys the immune system. So the simple definition is human immunodeficiency syndrome, meaning that it affects human, attacks the immune system, and this is a virus. You understand? Human immunodeficiency virus. The virus causing the immune system to be deficient and is affecting human being. That's HIV.
Okay. So, is it a death sentence?
No, it is not a death sentence. It is not a death sentence. Why I'm saying so is because unlike other illnesses that we have, we have cancer.
Yes,
and if you don't identify cancer early enough, one would say it's a death sentence, because once it spreads, it's difficult to get that person back. If one has any illness can be managed so far as it could be detected early. The same thing happens in HIV. It is not a death sentence. If one is infected early enough, he or she knows that he is infected and assesses care, then that person will survive. The person will lead a normal life. So it is not a death sentence, please.
Thank you very much. How can HIV be contacted?
The ways you can contact HIV are this. We have three major ways. One is unprotected sexual intercourse with an infected partner. The second is contact with blood or blood products that have been contaminated with HIV. The other part is from mother to child transmission. That's a pregnant mother giving to her unborn baby. And even when the baby is born, the person can still infect a breastfeeding child. So these are the three major ways that one can really get HIV.
What about the sharp objects, blood transfusion?
When I said three major ways. The second part was blood and blood contaminated instruments. That's to say, if you use sharp like needles, that needle must have had contact with some other person's blood. You use razor blade, it may have been infected by another person's blood. You use shaving stick, all those things that are sharp must have been in contact with blood products, and so the person could get infected through that way. Blood transfusion, the one we actually give blood through vein to an individual who is very sick. That person might have HIV. So that's just one aspect, blood and blood contaminated products.
So let's talk about preventive measures. How can one stay away from HIV? How can one prevent himself or herself from getting HIV and AIDS?
Okay. Once you know the cause of an illness, you definitely will know how to prevent it. That's to say, if you know that HIV can get to you through unprotected sex, then you should stop having sex, or probably stop having unprotected sex. Do we understand that? Because if you're not married, we all go to church. We hear about premarital sex and all that. If you're not married and then you don't want to have HIV, it is better to stay away from sex until you're ready. But if you are actually having sex, then you have to protect yourself. So that's one aspect. Unprotected sexual intercourse. You need to stay away. Yeah, with an infected person. And you won't know the infected person because it's not written on the forehead. Until the person gets to do tests, you can never tell if this person is positive. So if you don't have opportunity of testing your partner, then protect yourself. Otherwise, just stay clear from unprotected sex. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that since we know that HIV passes to the fetus through the mother, what we do now in the hospital is that every pregnant woman that goes for HIV counseling and testing. We're not just safeguarding the mother, but the next generation. So once the woman is tested and she's positive, we start there and then to give her drugs. These are the ARVs. So it could prevent illness in the mother, allow her to go through pregnancy healthily, and then prevent transmission to the unborn child. The other way is the other sharp things. If you are going for blood transfusion, then it should be in the hospital where adequate measures have been taken to prevent you having an infected blood, and that will be done in the lab. If you're using some things like we fix our hairs, we use needles. The men go for barbing, they use the clippers there. All these sharp things that people use may have been infected, so you need to go with yours. What we do personally, what I encourage people to do is, when you go there, it's not difficult to buy 15 naira needle. Just give to the person fixing your hair. Please use my own needle. It doesn't mean that you're being proud or you're showing off. It means you're responsible. Tell the person, please use mine. And even if you forget about it. It's 15 naira. So if you have money to buy with one, that means you should be able to buy 15 naira needle. So these are the ways you can prevent. And if you happen to help somebody who was involved in an accident, probably the person is bleeding, I know at that point in time you might want to rush to help and you will be using your bare hands. But we suggest that you just get a waterproof. You could just get waterproof around to put in your hands and try to assist the person so the person won't bleed more. So you try to do these things that prevents some other person's blood from getting to you. This happens also in cases of rape, because we understand that when we say stay away from unprotected sexual intercourse, what about rape cases? These ones are not having sex on their willingly. So if it happens, we encourage the person to report immediately. In fact, within the first 48, 72 hours. Once the person reports, we will now give drugs to prevent the person from having HIV. But people, because of the trauma that comes with rape, decide to, withdraw. They stay at home. Psychologically, they are not sound, and then some stars will pass. Before you now see them, report to the hospital, and sometimes they don't even report. And HIV can stay 10 to 15 years in someone's system before you could get to them. So these are the ways you can prevent HIV.
Thank you very much. So what is the typical attitude of somebody who is infected with HIV? So when somebody comes to you to be tested, and then I'm sure the person comes with a 50-50 chance, and then somebody says, how do you even tell somebody the person is HIV positive?
Yeah, that's the interesting part. That lady you talk about actually needs counseling. I'm sure she was not well counseled. In HIV care, there's what we call pre-test counseling and a post-test counseling. Counseling is not decision. You don't decide for the patient. HIV test, though it is very important, they will still give people opportunity to either decide to test or refuse the test. We what we call pre-test counseling. As an individual comes in, you first let the person understand the possibility of he or she being positive or negative. Now you put every cards on the table. Let the patients know that this is, I'm coming here to do this test, and I might be positive, I might be negative. If I'm positive, what will happen to me? If I'm negative, what am I going to do? These are the things that are required in pre-test counseling. Now, when you finish counseling the patient now decides, okay, ma, I will come tomorrow. Okay, no problem. Go and think about it. Ma, I'm ready. I brought myself. I want to do the test. Fine. You now go ahead and do the test. Once you do the test and the person is positive, that's the aspect that may be difficult for somebody like you. But for us counselors, we don't have problem with that. So once they are positive, you have to maintain, you have to be calm. Because the patient is looking at you straight and expects you to tell her the truth. That's one thing you have to do. You must not withhold any information from the client. So once you give the person time, of course it takes just 15 minutes. The person comes in. Tell the person, are you ready for your test? Results say yes. Okay. You don't just tell the person straight as it is, oh, you're HIV positive. The person will say, the first thing is denial. Me? How can, all those stuff. So you now try to calm the patients. Okay, why do you think it's not you? Did you do this? Remember our pre-test counseling? That you could get it through this way. If you say it's not you, have you done any of these things? The person would, most times they will say yes. Actually, I did. So okay, that's a risk factor. That was a risk you took. Now the test. And what we do actually is that we have to show you your test results. We don't discard it. You stay there and you see your results. We will tell you in the pre-test counseling, when you see one line here, it means you're negative. If you see two lines, it indicates you have virus. They will not just tell you you're positive. We will now go for the second test. Or the second test, we call it confirmatory test, which we use Unigold. And now we go for the test. So by the time you do all this, the patient is already prepared. So we tell you, okay, ma, after the shock and all that, the person will now start asking you, ma, so am I going to die? What am I going to do? And I say, okay, that's where we now start, the next phase.
We know we will not hear that part.
So that is it. So
wow,
it is interesting. Getting somebody out of that moody state is very interesting. But when you play, you will tell them everything, give them all the information in the pre-test counseling, then it will be easy to disclose the results when it is out.
Trust me, I do not envy your job.
It doesn't end there. Once somebody is negative, most times you see them, they just kneel down in the office. Oh God, thank you very much. Say yes. A negative result might actually be that you're negative, but you also think that negative result might just be that you're positive, but your body is here to produce antibodies. That's why I keep telling people, I have to bring that in here so our people will hear. We have noticed that churches make it as a rule now that somebody will have to do HIV tests before they get married. And sometimes in my line of service here, I notice that some women after marriage do come in with HIV positive, but they were actually negative before they got married. That's the case, but I keep telling them, yes, encourage your people, encourage your members to do tests, but don't make it as a yardstick. Because if you do that, that person that is coming to my office today to do HIV test and is negative might be married next month. The person is still negative, but you did not know the person was actually going through a window period, and that is the period where you are infected, but the antibodies have not been produced for us to test and see. So by the time you complete your window period, let's say 3 months, let's say 6 months for some individuals, you now discover you're positive. And some of them will now come and confess, ever since I got married to my husband, I have not had sex. It's true, maybe true, they don't have. So one test is not enough. So don't base what, just tell your people to be doing the test over and over, just keep doing the test. And if you happen to be positive, you have your decision. The final decision lies with the clients, not the church, not anybody. Because even when they come for the pre-test counseling, they do the test, one person is positive, the other person might still decide to marry. It's their business.
Would you advise an uninfected person to marry an infected person? Is that not a deal breaker?
No, I wouldn't say so. HIV tests, HIV results, HIV care, HIV management rest on the client. Okay? And what brings two people together is love and commitment. Now let me ask you, if you were actually HIV negative, you married your husband as HIV negative, then somewhere in the marriage, one person becomes positive, would you divorce?
No.
You won't, because that's not what brought two of you together. So if somebody, in my office, I've actually contracted like 2 or 3 marriages. One is positive, the other is negative.
And they continued, they knew about it.
Yes, they knew. Like a particular case I can't forget. That's one case I say is a success story that I will always live to thank God for.
Please give us a story.
The story was that this lady actually was in a bank. She was a banker, well-to-do. The husband that she was getting married to, she married a man on Saturday. The guy died on Monday.
Wow.
She didn't know the guy was positive. Okay, so when the guy died, actually, she got to know that the guy was positive. I think on that Monday, the guy was positive. So after the burial, she now went to the hospital to do tests. She became positive. She noticed she was positive too. Here in Udoh, she went and took poison to kill herself. Yeah, she wanted to commit suicide. So the pastor called me, because I never knew that man, but somebody told him about me. So he sent for me. I went. The lady never talked to me the first day. I went back. I went home, went the next day. She still did not want to talk to me. I tried everything possible. She did not want to talk to me. But actually she was taken to the hospital and the poison was neutralized. So but she was quite sad and she was broken. She was devastated. So the 3rd day, she actually talked to me. So I got to know this story and I talked to her. So she decided she wasn't going to get married again. I said, okay, if you don't want to get married, no problem. But after a while, I was called to meet with her. She told me she had somebody who wanted to get married. I said, but how? Well, you told me you were not going to marry. So I said, well, that I actually talked to her, and she has seen that there was no need committing suicide because she wasn't the only person affected. And this guy I said, have you told this guy? I said, yes. And then the first thing she said, told the guy, please go. I don't want to marry you. I am positive. Please go. The guy said, no, wait. The guy is working at Port Harcourt, this one of these oil companies. The guy was rich. It's not as if he wasn't rich. The guy is rich. As I speak that together, they have 3 children now, and 3 of them are negative. The guy is still negative.
Please,
no, the guy is still negative. That is what I don't know. You see, that's why we say that HIV, what brings 2 people together is not just the HIV, it's the bond. And then there's nothing that is difficult for God to do. This guy decided to marry this lady even in her state, as HIV positive parents. But today, they are happily married. Happily married. So if somebody gets to my office during the pre-test counseling, all these things will be laid bare. Please, the decision is yours. Do you want to get married? If you're positive, one person is positive. One will say, well, let the result come out first. So how do you want to get your result? You want to get your result together? We give them the opportunity, or you want to get it individually? Some will actually say, please, let's come in one by one. Okay. That way you know that
there's not enough
commitment. There's not enough. So some will say, no, whatever it is, we're getting together. I say, madam, do you agree? Say, yes, together. And you notice that when you get, if one of them happens to be positive, the other one says, so what is there? Is there nothing that we can do about it? So there's something. You now start telling them about the management, you see them get married and they're still living together. Most times, what surprises me is the fact that the same person that was negative remains negative most time. I don't know how it comes, but that's how it is.
Could it be because the person is properly managing and
I want to think so, because these drugs, once you take, at the initial stage, the viral load is very high. The viral load is the load of this virus in that person's individual, in that person's blood, So when we pick the blood and do the test, the viral load is very high because the person has not taken the drug. But once we start these drugs, you see the way the drug works, that's why I keep telling our people, please take this drug. It will stop the multiplication of the virus because it makes copies of itself every day in millions, not in thousands. So once they take the drug, over time, it stops the multiplication, and then it maims the virus, making them useless. And on the other hand now, it tries to rebuild the person's immune system. So once the copies of the virus are reduced, and then you now have the virus being useless in you, the possibility of you getting sick becomes slim. You understand? Now once the person picks up, is still on the drug, takes the drug very well, at a point in time, you see what we call target, not detected. Once we pick the person's blood and we notice that, you now send the blood for test at the UTH, that's when we assess our viral load test. You notice that this person's blood, the viral load is almost undetected in that person's system. Such an individual will never die of HIV unless the person stops taking drugs. So in such a situation, you see that the person might not, you cannot say will not, might not transfer. So you see them living happily. And most times their kids are always negative. In fact, if you see somebody have a child, deliver a child that is positive, it means the person did not start taking drugs early, or there was mismanagement of labor. That's why we keep encouraging them, please, when you are pregnant and you've been told that you're positive, please try to deliver in the hospital, because there are some procedures in the hospital that will be undertaken so that the child will not be infected. So I cannot say don't get married. I can't say get married. I am a counselor. Mine is to encourage you to take informed consent. I cannot decide for you. So you decide and tell me, and then we work towards that.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we wrap it all up for today, could you please talk about the stigmatization against people living with HIV and AIDS? How bad is it? How bad can stigmatization affect the person living with HIV and AIDS?
So much. It really affects them. That's why we keep telling people, we keep preaching, we keep shouting, we keep encouraging people to accept the people that are infected with HIV as part of them, because you never can tell how they got the infection. I got to know of the story of a young lady who actually was in the hospital taking care of the sick auntie, and this auntie had rashes all over the body, and she was the one taking care. She never knew the auntie was positive. She would be cleaning the body, and if she had wounds, definitely with the soiled linen from this lady, she will be infected. She was the one washing the clothes, She will rub cream, on the auntie and all that. So when the auntie was tested, as those days she was positive. But the lady never knew. So after some time, she became positive. She didn't, she became sick. And by this time, this auntie had died. So she became sick. And we noticed that she was positive. She tried to, she could not think of anywhere else that she got the virus. she wasn't into a relationship, just a young girl and all that. So with that, you can't, what would you say was the girl's fault? She never knew anything. I know about the children that are born virgins. I have virgins in my register, they are positive. One of them was infected as early as a week old when she was born. She was given blood transfusion, and she now got to 16 years old. She had to come for medical exam, and the day I told her, she never believed. She said, "Madam, please come and check me. I am a virgin. I have not had sex, and the family is rich. They are not. It's not like they're eating well. They are quite okay. They are well placed in the society." So when I told her, "You see this office? When it comes to tests, we are very proficient. If I tell you you're positive, it means you're positive." She stood there and called the mom. The mom came. A child like that, as innocent as she was, she just had to call the parents. So that was when the mother now told her that she was given blood, but they never knew that she had it. So things like this, a mother giving a child through breastfeeding, you helping an accident victim, getting the blood, coming in contact with the person's blood, and other things that you may not have known. So when you stigmatize against these people, what do you think will be their life? You can't. You just have to absorb them as member of the family and see how you can take care of them. So because they will be now dependent on you, the immune system is down. Possibility is that she will get sick, and she will need your care. She needs your money. If you in the family don't accept, people in the public will have to, they won't accept her too. So it's so bad that the government has brought what we call Anti-Stigmatization Act. If in the offices now, you can't send anybody home because of on account of HIV. If you do that, claims. In any way, in fact, you are told not to discriminate. So if you do that, you have penalty. So it is so bad, but people in the villages are not still doing well. If somebody happens to be positive in a village, notice that you can't even buy in the market. You can't even go to the stream. So we still have a lot of work to do. Somebody, you won't sit in the church and another person will sit close to you. The person will get up because they still don't understand how the virus is being transmitted. So we still have a lot of work to do. So we encourage people, please, when you see HIV infected persons, you may not have known how they got this infection, help them. Get close to them, because you never can tell tomorrow. It might be you, it might be your children, it might be your sibling. So you just get to know that HIV is just like any other illness, and you have to show care and support to these people.
Wow, I could take that as a parting shot. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Wow. Is there any other thing you want to add?
Well, I want to ask, I was thinking you were going to ask me why I think HIV is prevalent in this state.
Okay.
Very important.
Okay, so let's just hit me.
So why I keep asking myself why this our dear state, Akwa state, this is a state that people have been envious of. It's a state that we have the resources to take care of ourselves, even though we may not really have our youth being employed and all that. Getting to this level of being the first in the country, in terms of the prevalence of HIV, is disheartening. And I would agree partly that this state, the report is actually true, because in riverine areas, you notice that these servicemen that come around, when they leave their families, they come to see these young girls around. Those girls are promiscuous. They will keep sleeping with those girls, passing the virus to them. They will leave, another state will come, and all that. So it's prevalent. If you go to Udoh, all those areas that you have the borders of these states, you notice that the prevalence is very high. And again, one very important thing, I don't know how we are going to handle it, is religious factor. It's a big problem in this state. But you notice that in my line of care, I have seen so many things that I wouldn't say here. But let me just mention this.
Please do.
You have somebody coming in for counseling and testing services, or probably the person just fell sick. And after they have tried, our typical Nigerian person or an African man, if the person is sick, we first go to a chemist. probably will be given paracetamol and other drugs. The person will go back, will keep on going until when the illness becomes so much, the person will now come to a hospital. Now, if this person comes and a doctor examines the patient and suspects that there must be immune suppression, send the person for counseling and testing. You finish testing the person, you tell the person what the person needs. The person needs. Sometimes you even start the drug, the person goes back home and goes to church. The pastor will tell the person what they are telling you is a lie. HIV is not in your system. It is just the witches and the wizards that have done this. Drop the drug. Pray. You mean they will now prescribe fasting for this sick person who needs so much care, food, and all those things to build up the immune system? The person will now start fasting and drops the drug. And one thing about this drug is when you start it, you're not trying to suppress the effects of the virus. When you leave a gap, you notice that the virus becomes used to it, what we refer to as resistance. The virus resists this drug. By the time you go back to the same drug, it might not work again. So you now see the patient will drop the drug and start praying. Well, for some time you see the patient will come up, but because the virus is the virus, stays in the system, destroys the system more, and the next time that patient falls sick, it is difficult getting the person off that state. So you now see that everywhere witches, wizards, they are the cause of your problem, nothing like HIV. If you go, some of them will even go as far as telling the clients, see, if you go to hospital now, they will tell you have HIV. It's not HIV. By the time they already tell that patient that, and the patient comes to your office and you test, the person is positive, tell me how the person will even listen to you. The person will go back. And some of these churches have their own, most churches now, denominations in the world now have their own separate medical center or sick people's units and all that. Well, it's good if they want to do it, but it is better for them to seek expert management when it comes to some of these cases. But it's not. So why won't we have a very high rate of HIV in the States when our people are not allowed? Because one thing about this HIV is once you accept it and you work towards it positively, you will be able to prevent transmission to others. But when you don't accept it, you see the mother still trimming her nails and using the same razor to trim the children's nails. You see the woman using enema can and is also using it for other people. There's no active step as to prevent transmission because she does not even believe. She feels it's a wizard's song, so it might not get to my children. So it's a problem in this state, religious factors. So I don't know how we're going to do that, but if we have people, some of these big men of God, in quotes, we talk to them to allow these people access care even while they are still praying. I think it will help them so much that telling them, don't take the drug. Even if it is from the wizard's world, you notice that the funny part of it is that the same person that will be told that it's a wizard's doing, once this person takes this drug, you see them getting well. Why? Is it that the wizards cannot stop HIV drugs from working? Because you see them come out, they will be very healthy. So some people, when they see that death has actually gotten to them, you see them get up and get the drugs. So you now have to manage the 50-50 way. Sometimes they get out of it, sometimes they die. So it's also a challenge. So, well, now that it has, Akwa has become one of the the state with the highest prevalence rate, I am thinking that the state governor would liaise with the NGOs, the FHI 360 currently serving the state, to see what they can do much more. Apart from coming to the facilities like we are, they should get to the interior parts of this state and bring this health education down to the level that the people will understand. Not just packing these drugs to give them in the township facilities. We just get down to the villages and see if they can talk sense to these people and then help them to prevent HIV, take active steps to prevent HIV. That's what I think.
Wow, Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you so very much. That's a lot of education in one session. I think we will have to do this another time. Maybe we would have to come to the hospital.
No problem.
Okay. But this is a very good way to begin this relationship we're having with Passion TV. We are very grateful. Now, you've mentioned some of the things that the government should do to help in curbing the spread of HIV.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to ask, what should individuals do? I know you've said it in different ways, what individuals should do to prevent it. But just use this as your parting shots.
Okay.
What individuals, what churches, what schools, maybe whatever influencing factors we have that can help in curbing the spread of HIV in our United States.
Thank you very much. Yes, I had mentioned the ways we could prevent HIV. But we are meant to understand that if you educate one person, you are actually educating a lot of people. If you're here, you've seen this, you're viewing this, you heard this message, I would suggest as an individual, you take active steps to prevent HIV and then tell other people about this. If you've been sharing anything with anybody, don't say that this person is my sister, let me share the toothbrush with this person. You don't say, please give me your nail cutter, let me trim my nails. You don't just get to the salon and say, please use anything. Anything you know would prevent some other person's fluid or blood from getting to you, please do it. And then to the government, like I said, we still need to sink in some of our resources to get to the grassroots, let people understand. If it means getting the stakeholders in the religious world to come together to decide on this so that they could help also curb the spread of this, we should do that. That's what I think we should do, please.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Udoh. Thank you. Have a good day here. Wow. Now, that has been a very intriguing session. Very revealing too, and so touching. We are very thankful to the Chief Nursing Officer in charge of HIV Testing Services Unit of the Medical Center, University of Udoh, Mrs.NsikanAbasi in Udoh. We thank her so much for leaving it that bare, for being so open, for being so liberal with the truth about the scourge, HIV and AIDS in Akwa Ibom State. We are hoping that you would spread this word. Now you have this information. You need to give it to some other person who's not been privileged to watch this video. But you should share the video though, and you should help in disseminating information to prevent the spread of HIV and AIDS. There are communities around you. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends. As a matter of fact, if you have a friend and you've not educated that friend, you've not shared this video to that friend, that's such a disservice. But you need to get on board in helping to curb the spread of HIV and AIDS in Akwa Ibom State, and in Nigeria, and then in the greater world. Thank you so much for being part of the program today. For comments and reactions, you can drop your messages, your questions on the comment section, and be sure that you'll be getting an expert's reply. Thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of the next videos. Thank you.